Welcome to the Angler Talk Podcast with Chris and Aaron. Brought to you by FishingMagicianTV.com.
What is up, everybody? It's Chris and Aaron here again with another weekly episode of Angler Talk. How we going, brother?
Good, man. I got the on my end. I got the pier cart widened. I got the battery on it. The live wells hooked up, ready to go. Again, if you guys haven't checked out Extreme Bait Tanks, I can't stress enough. That's my baby sitting on top of that thing. But
yeah, I saw the video, man. That's a pretty badass cart there you got.
Bro, I'm about to take pier fishing to a whole nother level, and then do it for a short amount of time, and then that tank's going right on the front of the boat, so we can get a bunch of videos with the tank on the boat, and keep shiners alive when we're out fishing headwaters, and keep shrimp and mahara alive when we're out fishing the river. So it's good.
Absolutely,
man.
Yeah. So how's the fish? I'm doing pretty good, man. I can't complain. Things are starting to look up. Pops is feeling better. And, I haven't been able to get out there because, being an adult. But the fishing is on fire, bro. A couple of bluefish have been caught down in South Jersey. Weak fish are around. The stripers are still bang, bang, bang. It's nonstop. I mean, they're a little finicky, but, they're still biting. Nobody's got well, at least not that I've heard, no 50-pounders yet. But, it's they're being caught. How's it fishing down there in Florida?
Florida again. It's weird how it's turning on at the same time, but it's the same deal, man. I mean, the river's heating up. You're catching more sea trout now than what you were a month ago. You're battling the winds consistently. I've been talking about that almost every podcast, but the winds, when you have time to fish, seem to where they're just friggin' blowing, dude. So if you're not getting out there at sun up and fishing the first couple hours of sun up, the winds are just shutting the river down, or the inlet, or even the friggin' ocean. But you're getting the opportunity to get out, Chris. I mean, you're starting to catch more and more redfish, bigger redfish. You're catching sea trout, and you're actually catching snook on the move, where they weren't really moving and seeking out, target fish, and they were kind of sitting on structure, and they were kind of finicky to catch there for a while. But no, it's all heating up in a good direction, man. I'm looking forward to getting out.
I hear you, man. Well, I don't want to keep the people waiting too long because everybody knows why they're clicking on this video. They want to watch and they want to hear. This week, we got a bona fide celebrity coming on the show from National Geographic and the show Wicked Tuna, none other than Captain Dave Marciano. We get behind the scenes, asking some things, and talk to him about some stuff that you do not see on the show, and we just get his opinion on a bunch of stuff. So I hope everybody sits back and enjoy our time with Dave. But before we get to that, if you like what you're watching, smash that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe. Every week there's a new episode. So with that being said, let's get to it, guys. And here we are with Dave Marciano, the captain of the hard merchandise. How we doing today, bud?
Excellent. Thank you. Yourself?
I can't complain, man. The weather's finally starting to break out, get a little bit better. So can't wait to get back out there and start fishing.
Yeah. Our season just kind of started out here on the East Coast for, our bottom fishing charters just began. Basically, we started Easter weekend was our first few trips, and it's nothing too exciting. It's not like the tuna that, most people normally see us doing. It's just our local bottom fish, cod, haddock, and pollock, and nothing too terribly exciting, but very good eating. And
Absolutely.
Just like you guys, we've been cooped up all winter, so everybody's anxious to get out and just catch something.
I mean, for me, bottom fishing is fun. That's probably my favorite type of fishing to do because at the end of the day, sometimes you just never know what you're going to bring up. It could be anything from pollock, haddock to flounder to conger eel. You just never know,
Yep. Yeah.
All right. So a lot of people watch the show all around the world, and, they only see what we see on TV. But let's go back a little bit. How did your fishing career start?
Well, it started, my father sold insurance, and he's retired from that game now. And he didn't really know nothing about fishing at all, right? So I had an uncle who took me fishing when I was a kid, my Uncle Joe, and he kind of planted the seed just by taking me to the ponds, and nothing exciting, but just bobbers and minnows and down the local ponds, right? and my passion for fishing just grew from there. And then, throughout my school years, I worked in the, charter headboat industry, if you will, pretty much all up and down the East Coast, even down in, spent 4 or 5 years in Key West, Florida, doing it down there. And then, after that, life happens, you get married, you have kids. So I graduated more towards the commercial end of the fishing industry, gill netting, long lining, dragging, all of it. There's very little that I haven't done. And that's where that led me down the path to get my own boat. We were primarily gill net fishermen. That's what we did for years. And, because of my history as a youth, I had my captain's license. So when the regulations were always an ongoing challenge in commercial fishing.
Yeah.
So over time, we slowly, began to dabble a little bit in charters every year, just to, to continue to make money on some months we had closures. For instance, that, the April, May closures up here in New England were closed to commercial fishing, and to access the open areas was outside the range of my vessel to fish safely. But under the charter boat, the charter potty boats could go fish in those same closed areas. So it was just a matter of, being able to keep the boat busy. But I always thought it was odd is, I can't make money killing cold dead fish with my net, but we could make money killing cold dead fish with the same boat with a different gear type. It
Right.
never made sense to me, but
Well, Dave, when you started going offshore and actually hitting that water or getting out of the regulations that kind of held you back for all them years, what was the first boat that got you there? I know you've had plenty, I'm sure, but do you have one that was at least memorable when?
well, yeah, my first boat was the Angelica Joseph.
Okay.
It was named after my kids. Now I owned that one for about a decade, but we lost that one January 13th, 2003 at 3:35 p.m. We sank coming home from fishing, loaded down with a load of pollock on her.
Goodness, man.
So we were winter gill netting in New England here, and
Right.
it was 5 degrees out and shit and all that fun stuff.
That's that's some
Great
fun
day
stuff.
for a swim.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, really. Yeah. So Dave,
But fortunately, myself and all the crew were aboard.
yeah,
We're around to tell the story. So
that's what I was
that's
gonna
where all the safety
Yeah.
regulations, and I'll give a shout out to the U.S. Coast Guard for having us do those safety drills and having us manage, all our safety equipment in a proper fashion.
Yeah.
As frustrating as that is, and at times, tough to pay for when fishing isn't good. It's hard to have money to keep everything up to date.
Right.
But, ultimately it all paid off when we needed it. And, an event like that, although boats sink in the fishing industry, you never think it's going to be you.
Yeah.
Right. Just
For
like
sure.
a car accident. You know what I mean? We all have insurance. We all drive the cars, and you never think you're going to be in an accident until
It happens.
someday.
Right.
It happens. Right.
It does, and I agree with you 100% on a big shout out to the Coast Guard. When times get rough out there, they're the first person we call, and they're the ones risking their butts to come and save us. So, big shout out to the United States Coast Guard.
Sure.
So Dave, when that one went down on you, was it far off of when that went down from the time that you got the boat that we all come to love on the show, the hard merch, or has it
Well, yeah, no, it was about a year. By the time I found the merch, I got another old wooden boat. That was, a 35-year-old It was an old Jonesport lobster boat built in Jonesport, Maine, and I converted it to a gill letter. She was 1.5 inch mahogany planks over an oak frame.
Okay.
Um, and then I bought an even older wooden boat. I bought a 45-year-old old wooden lobster boat within a few days just to get back in the game
Yeah.
and to keep me fishing all winter. And then eventually, I found, and I knew that boat was just going to be a temporary boat. You know what I mean? I owned
Okay.
it for about a year. Well, I found that boat that, was going to suit my needs much better. And that ultimately was the hard merchandise.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen her since since the beginning of the show. I've been watching, and I think
Yeah.
many fishermen have been, because it's a show about what we love to do, and the hard merch. And I'm not trying to say this to toot your horn, but I think you're probably the biggest fan favorite because you remind us more of us. Like more of the guys on the show, I kind of feel like they don't need fishing to support their families. And you seem like, this is what you do because you have to and because you love it, obviously. But it's just, it seems different from, like, you don't look at Dave from the hard merch and look at Dave from the .com the same. It's you can tell it's a necessity.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And there's no, right or wrong way. That's always been a historic part of specifically the tuna fishery. There's many folks with different means, and all that does is, they made their life choices just as I made mine. And, if they were more successful than me, more power to them. It just does make us, just like you said, we're in a different situation. And tuna fishery is the only fishery they engage in, um, just because it's a fantastic fishery, and they like to catch fish. They have a passion for it, and are very good at it. Just like you or I. So,
Yeah,
everybody's got a right to use their boat for whatever they see fit. So
Yeah,
good
man.
on them. But you're right. There's no right or wrong way, but there is a difference.
For sure, dude.
absolutely. I
You
mean,
know.
like you said, me and you, we're both captains, but I don't think I'm nowhere near the level that you're at. I think as a captain, I still have a lot to learn. As an angler, I'm pretty sure I can hang with the best of them. But as far as being the captain of the boat, I know I still have a lot to learn. And
Well,
you know,
join the club. You know what I mean? I'm always learning, even after so many years. Right? Yeah, I'm a firm believer in the minute you think you got it all figured out and you're unteachable,
yeah,
is the minute you're about to be in a whole world of hurt out here.
absolutely,
Because you know, there's a saying in the industry that, the older guys taught me, and there's no substitute for experience. And
absolutely.
experience, both good and bad, is how we all learn,
Yeah.
Yeah,
at
it's
least
gonna
from
teach
a
you
fishing
something.
perspective.
Absolutely, man. So, speaking about that, like, how did the concept for Wicked Tuna come about? Did they approach you guys? You guys approach them?
Well, yeah. When I say they, it's Pilgrim Studios. If you Google them, all they do is produce reality shows. Um, they're the ones who came up with the idea. They were in town for 10 days. I had no idea any of it was going on. On the ninth day, they contacted me. They gave me the rundown. They said, hey, we interviewed a bunch of other boats, and we went out with some other boats, and we got some B-roll footage of these fish being caught. And they said, one thing we noticed was your name came up a lot. And they said, in our business, if people talk about you, you may be somebody you want to interview. Now, I
Absolutely.
make no claims to be the biggest or the baddest, but as a commercial fisherman, I've had some really spectacular years, and I've had some pretty disastrous years. So
Well, yeah, you seem
I've been around the block a few times.
you definitely seem like you've paid in your dues. You put in the time, and a lot of people see the blow ups that you become famous for on the show. But for the people that watch it and don't fish, they don't understand. It's like I tell my fiance all the time. When you're giving birth, you might kind of know what it feels like to lose a fish at the boat. And she just chuckles, but that's the reality of it. It's heart hitting for us. So did
It
you
is. It's true.
did you always go down to the Outer Banks, or was that just something that happened?
No. Look, I would normally make a living around Gloucester. That's where my home is. That's where my boats are. If I can't work my boat because of closures or some other reason, there was, always other boats in Gloucester. Because I'm not too proud if I can't go on my own boat or run in another boat as captain, I'll go on deck, right?
Yeah,
I have a lot of experience fishing, so I can do any part of the job. And, just like anybody else out there, if I need a paycheck every week, I need a paycheck every week. So,
absolutely.
I
There's
do
there's
whatever
no,
it takes. And, I'll bang nails or paint walls if I have to, but, I'd rather go as a crewman on deck on another fishing boat than do
yeah,
that. That's just my preference. If it's with the right crew, it
Yeah.
can be fishing is
absolutely.
fun.
Yeah, I mean,
That's always been my passion.
there's mouths to feed at that table, so you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. Now, fortunately, so yeah, I'm sorry we kind of glanced over your question, but the only reason I went down the Outer Banks is because there was an economic opportunity for me to do so. Yes, they offered me a check to go down there.
Hmm.
Okay, I'll go down.
So
They paid
yeah.
the operating expenses. And with the deal I signed, I won't lie. With the deal I signed, I made sure that no matter what happens, I'm coming out ahead. And then if
Hmm.
I do catch a fish, I get to sell it like I always did. So it
Right.
was a no-brainer. Now, it wasn't millions of dollars, mind you, but it was a good opportunity. You have to look at
Absolutely.
all the little opportunities, um, that come about with being part of a show like this, right?
Right.
And everybody likes to think, oh, he's on TV, you get $1 million.
Yeah,
I thought
no.
so myself, right? I thought that's how it worked myself. But I've learned over time that's not how it works. It's like any small business, right? You got to build. They don't play the rookie
Absolutely.
players in hockey. You don't get the big contract your first season, right? Everybody's going to go see what's up and see what you're all about. You got to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Being part of a show like this is the same way. So the key to making, some pretty good money doing is longevity, right? Now, I just that doing a Southern show didn't work for me because pretty much I'm the only guy who left. I have the wife and the young kids I left at home, right? And so
Yeah,
all of a sudden now I'm gone for 3 months instead of going out overnight, right?
Yeah.
And it just didn't work for our family, right? It was just and plus, my boats, you need a fast boat. You need a boat with power to really negotiate that inlet safely. And
Yeah.
yeah,
what that means is, that whole fishery is persecuted sometimes because they only get, 48 to 70 tons of quota down there, as opposed to we operate on 600 tons of quota on the
Good.
original show you see it now, right?
wow,
So that
yeah,
gives us a pretty long season. Down there, that fishery, that quota can be caught if fishing's in good in 12 to 14 to 15 days
Right.
of actual time on the water.
mm,
Now, if you can't, so it all comes down to how many times you can cross the bar.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
that comes down to the boat's capabilities. And if we have a horrendous winter and there's just not many opportunities of fairly calm weather to cross the bar, well, my boat stays at the dock more than the other boats,
Yeah.
which
yeah,
in TV world translates into not catching squat,
Right.
yeah.
right?
Uh,
And the thing is, though, is it's the way I run my boat. I was taught from the guys who taught me, right? If you don't feel comfortable with what you're doing, don't
Don't
do it,
do it.
right?
Excellent.
when it comes to the operation of the vessel, right?
For sure.
Now, in all fairness, although obviously, production's got money invested in me being down there and would want me to go as often as possible, they never would put you in the position to force you to go when you don't, it was always my call.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then even you saw working with the guys down there, when those local guys who have been fishing there 30 years tell you don't try it today with that boat, you listen.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I'm making a little bit extra money, what good is it if I wind up scattered all across the bar, right?
I hear you, man. They call that place the graveyard of the Atlantic for a reason. I mean, that is a real bad inlet.
Right.
Yeah.
And, and again, it's all about the boat's capabilities. The more capable, there's a certain type of vessel design. That's where the whole, that Carolina flair for those boats that were built in that area. They have the big, wide, flared bow, the sport boats. They were designed to negotiate inlets like that, to send that water flying to the side instead of over and in through the windows, which happens a lot down there.
So Dave, when we're talking about these big boats with these Carolina flares, do they have the same capability to like prepare the catch and get the catch back to the buyer? And it's kind of a two-part question. Do you yourself and the crew prepare your catch for the buyer and then that's it? Or do you actually prepare the catch, get it to market, and profit from it from market also? You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I think I understand. Yeah, I mean, most boats are pretty standard. You're not going to go out and fish for these fish if you're not able to handle them. That being said, some of the smaller boats may not have, like my boat. Look, I have a rule of thumb for icing fish, for instance, if you want to prep a fish for buyer. And whether you're talking tuna or anything else, right? 5 pounds of ice to 1 pound of fish.
Okay.
Okay. You need a lot of ice because ice melts while it's cooling the fish down to the temperature of the ice. And that's what you want, the cold fish to be as cold as possible.
Right.
So if you're using less than that, in my mind, you're not looking at optimum quality.
Yeah.
The buyers can tell that. Why do you think they probe the fish? They probe it and get a temperature. They probe it and look at that core. They want to see how cold that fish is right down to the core. That's all part of it. And that's what separates, those little things can make all the difference. And then on top of that, each fish is like a snowflake. They can be truly unique and individual when it comes to the quality of the meat and how well that meat is taken care of, right? For a buyer, that's everything.
Mm-hmm.
And whether we're talking tuna or any other species of fish, right?
Yeah.
Quality control begins the moment a fisherman catches it. Mm-hmm. Now, this fish in ideal conditions, an ideal fish that's super cold and been well taken care of, literally has a shelf life of a matter of a day or two.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
It's fish.
Right.
It don't last forever. It's not a can of beans. When we're talking fresh seafood, right?
Yeah,
you can't put it on the shelf and, just wait for something to happen, right? So those buyers are willing to pay for fish that's, a super well taken care of fish is going to last longer.
Yeah.
Now, if he buys a poor quality fish that's hot or isn't super cold or even hot when it gets to the dock, that means he's going to get rid of that fish in a matter of hours. Otherwise, he's stuck with it after he pays me.
Right. Yeah.
You understand? Right. So a lot of guys don't think that through when it comes to, selling these fish.
Yeah.
And how come you can get more than someone else? Well, if you bring, a better quality fish in for all the little reasons, aside from there's nothing you can do about the quality of the, the fat content of the fish you caught, except take care of the fish you caught You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and especially a high fat fish, will burn up quicker because of that
Yeah.
fat content. So there's a lot of little tricks, that you learn over time on bringing a fish. Let's say you and I came into the dock at the same time with the same fish. I'm going to make damn sure mine's better looking than yours. That's my business
Right.
because it's going to affect how much I get paid. And if I get a nickel more than you, I won.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's the way
hear
I
you,
look
man.
at it. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with the fish that is like a bluefin. I'm not 100% sure if it's the most powerful fish in the ocean, but it's up there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
when you're fighting these fishes, the amount of stress it's going under and the fight, that blood is boiling up. And at the end of the day, this is something that somebody has to eat. So, I totally get the preparation of the fish thing and why it's very important, if not probably the most important thing to do once you catch
Ab-
it.
Absolutely. Like you said, while we're fighting these fish, the lactic acid can build up in their bloodstream, and that's why bleeding a fish is important. Cooling it down before you actually kill it is important. There's a lot of little tricks, stopping the nerves from firing in the spine once you actually kill a fish. There's a lot of little tricks that we don't even go into on the show. And that's
Oh, yeah.
because it's a 1 hour TV show. We're not going to bore people, with too much. Plus, when you look at the network we're on, like they used to film all those little things we do. And, we would get replies back from the network. Well, can you make it less bloody? Can you make, right?
Oh.
Right. Well, the thing is look at the network we're on. We're on National Geographic.
Right.
And we all know the National Geographic that we grew up with, right?
Yeah.
So I was always amazed that National Geographic even had interest in filming a show like ours.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was also proud of the fact that it gave fishermen in general credibility, right?
Yeah.
Because, and when I say fishermen, I mean commercial fishermen, right? It put a face in the commercial fishing industry. Because let's face it, over the years, the anti-fishing lobby, right? And that does exist. It's a big money industry. And, they have painted kind of, given the fishing industry a black eye in general and made us out to be like some sort of, Vikings out there raping and pillaging with no concern for the future. When the truth is something completely different than that. Commercial fishermen are the only ones out there with literally a vested interest in the future. Where's my paycheck tomorrow if I catch all the fish today?
Right.
It really is as simple as that. Of course, we think about the future.
Absolutely.
So,
That actually,
being a part of National Geographic, kind of lends credibility to the way, they portray us harvesting, and bluefin is only one species, but at least it kind of helped start to tell that story and unravel those lies.
I agree.
So often I hear one of the, through emails or fan letters, right? People didn't know commercial fishing happened like that, in such an art. Let's face it, the bluefin tuna fishery is very unique, but it's an artisanal fishery, right? We harvest these fish with a rod and reel or a hand line or a harpoon, hand-thrown harpoon, one at a time. It's very selective. A lot of people didn't understand that. A lot of people, because of the anti-fishing culture and the anti-fishing lobby, they hear tuna, and the first thing they envision is dead dolphins and big factory ships.
Right.
Right?
I hear you.
When they hear that word tuna, because it's been drilled into their face. So at least we get to help, and it's not ideal, it's not perfect, but at least it starts to unravel that lie, which I believe all of it is a big lie when it comes to a lot of the bad rep that the commercial fishing industry in general gets.
Absolutely.
Not
And I
that
agree
to say
too.
we don't have problems, but it's fishermen working with managers that solves those problems.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I think the main cause of this, I don't even want to mention their name on this show because I don't want to give them any credibility at all, but
Yep.
it's PETA's fault.
Yeah.
They push
Well,
for this.
well, there's a lot of groups. I mean, the green, that green industry is like a lot of things in this country. You get too much of a good thing, and the pendulum goes from what started out as a good thing to now the pendulum's gone so far in the other direction, and it's all about money. You can look, environmental defense fund, whatever it is. There's always a fund or a trust fund or something, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
if you break it down and you actually begin to look at these non-profits,
Right.
all of a sudden you look at their board of directors and the CEOs, right? And you realize people are making millions
Yeah.
saving
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah.
And the whole way they stay nonprofit. They're very good at raising money, and you can't raise money if the ocean is healthy, right?
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't raise money if fish stocks are healthy. So
Right.
that truth can never be told,
Mm.
right? But we're talking big money. If you look at some of these places, they have some of the biggest buildings in downtown LA,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
right? This makes oil company money look like peanuts,
Oh yeah.
right?
Not for
And that's
not
who
for
we're up
profit, my
against.
butt.
And for us, we're a tool. They can club. They're using that word overfishing, which is a great tool to club fishing families over the head with, just
Right.
like we were seals.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's,
Oh, well,
they have
I'm
absolutely no shame.
I'm
Just
actually
follow the
glad we got
money is
into
all
that.
I'll say. It's easy enough to figure it out when you see one of these groups. Follow the money. Look at where all that money is going. Look how much they get and look where it goes. And tell me if it's really about the fish or anything else.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we got into that because I was actually leading up to my next question of, how do you feel about all the regulations that we have to deal with? I mean, I know the recreational guys and the
I fully
commercial guys.
support. Look. Ultimately, I support good fisheries management. Now, that being said, the process we use in this country is cumbersome,
Mhm.
aggravating, frustrating, but you can't deny its effectiveness. We're literally leaders in the world when it comes to successful fisheries management stories. We brought so many species back from, and they said they would never come back. And you know what I mean? Tuna is a prime example. Redfish down there, down south in Florida, red snapper, right? Um, all
Striped
fisheries
bass.
I participated in at the low points, and I've watched him. When I was in the Keys in the '80s, you might have saw one or two red snapper a year while we were
Right.
fishing
Yeah.
for groupers and yellowtails and mutton snappers, right? And when you
Hmm.
caught a red snapper, it was, that was once
Yeah.
in a blue moon. Haddock is another example up here. Arcadian redfish up here is another one. All were fished out and supposedly never coming back. But, a decade of solid fisheries management, and now we're all complaining about being able to catch them so easily, and we
Yeah.
catch our quotas so fast. Now you have to be man enough to willing admit, you can't have it both ways. We
Right.
can't
Yeah.
fish all we want and have a whole bunch of fish out there. It don't work like that.
Yeah.
If you want to have a whole bunch of fish and have fishing be easy for some of these species that we rebuilt,
Yeah.
you have to control it. Now, is it perfect? No, right? And again, it's frustrating, it's aggravating. The federal government is, in charge of managing the fisheries. You have these anti-fishing lobbies, to get into the position of fisheries management. A lot of it is done through the political appointee process.
For
So you
sure.
have to know a governor to be nominated in your state to
Right.
sit on the board that makes the laws, right?
Yep.
So when it comes to politics now, who's the bullies on the block? Well, these environmental groups. Not only do they have the money to grease the right hands compared to fishermen, that wouldn't have the same access, but for a politician, if a politician gets labeled anti-environment,
Yep.
his career is over,
You're done.
right?
Yeah.
Right?
It's over.
But if he has to stomp on a few thousand fishing families, well, he'll get promoted for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
Dave,
And it's all because when you look at the process, those politicians, rightfully so, have to be afraid of the real bullies on the block,
Right.
those environmental groups. So it's an imperfect process.
Yeah.
But ultimately, and I bitch and complain like the rest of you about some things,
Yeah.
but ultimately I fully support what we're doing because I've seen it work so well for so many species, and we are leaders in the world. But we do, there are problems, there are things we still have yet to figure out and sort out.
Right.
But I like to be optimistic and thinking over in time we will sort those things out.
And Dave, I hope so. You're the first guy in a long time that I've heard say that what we're doing is actually working in a positive direction. I don't want to get caught up too much more with the regulations because I can tell you're a super passionate guy. I mean, this is your living. This is where your bread and butter comes from. But for all the guys wondering out there, including myself, let's dial it back a little bit to the fishing aspect and how it feels. What do you do to get prepared in the morning to get on the hard merch with your crew? Like, what does the day look like for you starting off first thing from the dock, walking to the boat? What are you looking to bring? How do you set the boat up? Is there any special thing that you make sure you have on with you?
Well, yes and no. I mean, we've been doing this so long. Everything we need is on the boat.
Got it.
I just need to get my ass up and get down the boat. Like this time of year too. The truth is on the show you see one boat highlighted, but in the real world, the kids run the hard merch, Joe and Jay. I run the Falcon. And like today, we just get in a few hours ago. Both boats left the dock at 6 a.m. We had charters on each boat. Same thing's going to happen tomorrow. Same thing's going to happen Tuesday. And the same thing's going to happen Wednesday. I think Thursday is my day off this week. Right? This is our busy season. It just started after a long winter, right?
Yeah.
So, we're back to work. We're back to the grind. My alarm will go off at 3:30 a.m. I'll have a coffee, and I'll have a coffee, a cigarette, and my morning constitution, and then I'll work my way down the boat. In that order, because once that coffee hits, I have to make sure I'm in a good place. So
yeah, that's for sure.
But
Well, I talked to a lot of people about this.
Then the day starts.
I talk to a lot of people about this, and they always say, man, I wish I can get on that boat and do a charter with them. Well, a lot of people don't realize that you are a charter captain as well. So it's like if somebody wanted to charter you to go out for bluefin tuna, what are the rules about that? Because you do have the license.
Our website, right? Let me give you a website here. AngelicalFisheries.com. You can find out about all the different trips we offer, all the different options, all the prices there, all the details. And if you still got questions, you can shoot me an email. And look, I'm a businessman as a boat owner and a fisherman, right? And being successful at it has always been about a guy's ability to take advantage of opportunity when it presents itself. Now because of the show, the opportunity is in these 4 hire trips, for both me and my son. The whole reason I wound up, I'll be the first to admit, the whole reason I wound up with a second boat, I mean, if it weren't for the show, it would probably be me and my son and Jay running the one boat, right? We'd keep that boat very big. But, the reality is because of the popularity of the show, that boat was fully booked on all the available days it had. So as a businessman, why wouldn't I invest in another old boat?
Yeah.
And again,
Absolutely.
both my boats are old boats. The hard merch, was built in 1984. My new boat, the Falcon, which I've owned for, this will be 6 years now, was built in 1986. Right? I just recently, 3 seasons ago, I put new engines in it. The engines that were in the Falcon were manufactured in 1971.
Oh,
They were,
crap.
back when that boat was built, right? They were the 6V71 Detroits, right?
Yeah.
They were the tank engines that won the war. Back in the day in 86 when that boat was built, that was the best of the best. And it says a lot. They were the original motors that were put in that vessel. Their serial numbers were in sync. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
That was, and I sold them as running takeouts, and I still managed to get 14 grand for the pair of 35-year-old Detroits. Now, a lot of
yeah.
those wind up, from what I understand, a lot of them wind up, in other countries, in third world countries, where
Yeah.
they need a motor that runs.
Right.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about those Detroits, in some of those, less wealthy countries, I guess is the way to say it. Those Detroit parts are cheap and easily available.
Yeah.
So, they can get these motors and they can get parts and they can fix them themselves, just like we always did. But, then again, you better hope you're in a country nowadays with cheap fuel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you. I mean, the way it's looking, it looks like we're going to be end up paying $10 a gallon. So.
Yeah.
But
That's a
I
whole
mean,
nother.
yeah, that's a whole nother topic. But as far as like with the ugly black cloud that's over, the country and pretty much the world with this whole COVID thing. I remember when this COVID thing started, they shut everything down in the fishing industry, and I remember seeing a thread with you and a good friend of mine, basically my teacher, Captain Jerry Pastorino. How bad did COVID impact you and your fishery up there in Massachusetts?
The charter fishery, we lost about a third of the season that first year while the state came out with guidelines. And then
Mhm.
once they came out with guidelines, we could get back to business, but our business was about a third off from what it normally was, just because of where people were at. And then, it impacted the seafood industry for any fish, not just tuna, but,
Yeah.
when all the restaurants closed and, you saw it with like potatoes too, right? They were
Yeah.
burying the huge truckloads of potatoes because the restaurants weren't open and they
Right.
weren't serving their sushi at the bar, right? And you couldn't go get your fried fish sticks and potatoes, right?
Mhm.
And your fried clams. So, the overall rough numbers here is, the restaurant industry is probably a good 40% of more of the demand for seafood,
Oh
of
yeah.
any type of seafood, right?
Right.
So, of course, again, like that wasn't unique to the fishing industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Farmers took a hit. Anybody who catered to the restaurant industry took a pretty big hit.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
when that happened, I became worried for a lot of friends of mine because I was starting to worry: is their business going to make it? Are they going to pull through? And it was just a nightmare.
Yeah.
yeah, it was. No, it was a nightmare. And again, the good part is, I always knew because of our participation in the show, right? Like I knew I was one of the lucky ones because we had heard that was going to go forward even with COVID.
Right.
Yeah,
So, like I knew with the deal that I would sign, even if I lost everything else I did for the whole entire year, at least I knew I was going to have something coming my way, right?
Right.
yeah,
So at
Yeah.
least, we can all live on a budget. If you could say, well, I'm not going to
yeah,
have all I want, but at
Yeah.
least I'm going to have this, and you can all figure out how to get by on that. So
For
that's
sure.
how I looked at it, and I was able to build from there. So
Yeah.
I'll still admit, though, we were, compared to a lot of folks, we were very fortunate because of our opportunity to participate in that.
And that's a blessing, Dave, to be honest with you, man. I gotta revert back and ask another question that I have had like ever since I started watching you guys years ago, dude. Like I always had this burning question inside of me. When you do the private charters, so say I book a charter with you, we go out, I mean we catch everything that we need bluefin wise. Does that bluefin now get sold to market, or do we have the ability
Yes.
to sell
Yeah.
to market?
I know exactly what you're going to get asked. I get asked a lot. Now, if you visit the website, it's spelled out clearly in black and white.
Yeah.
All right. But if there's quota available when you do your trip with us.
Yeah.
All right. Now, the way the permit system works, and it's all about reporting and keeping track of these fish, because as you've seen, we're on a very strict quota. Only a federally permitted vessel can sell to a federally permitted buyer. So only a vessel that has a permit can possess one of those giant bluefin tuna.
Right.
And the only thing I can do with it is sell it to a licensed buyer. Right? So those are the laws that we live by. So in that instance, right, it's not a question of what I do or do not want to do with that fish.
Right.
It's what am I allowed to do with that fish by law.
Yeah.
That fish is going to go to a buyer. It's going to go to a federally permitted buyer. And that's because we have all the tracking. And, that fish, as soon as it comes to the dock, it gets a tag. And it's one of those unbreakable tags, which essentially gives it a social security number. Right. And that way I can follow that fish around the globe. If I have any doubt about what my buyer tells me about what the fish is worth, we can ultimately track that fish through the tag number anywhere on the globe.
So, Dave, I'm sure. Listen.
So again, these are things that you don't hear in the show, but that's how we keep everybody honest. So, your question as a client, now it's pretty much an industry standard that the clients will receive a percent of the value of the catch.
Question answer. Got it. Question answer.
Right. Now, so that's the answer to your question. My policy is 10%. You get 10% up to the price of the trip.
Okay.
Now, I say that's a rough industry standard. That's what my policy is.
Right.
Guys, the percents may vary.
Yeah.
Right. Other guys may give you a percent off the price of a future trip or something. Right. So I'm only going to speak for myself what my policy is, and it's spelled out clearly in black and white when you start looking at information on tuna trips. Now, that being said, if there's quota available in the recreational fishery has quota set aside for shorts, right? So those fish you see in the show that we call shorts, right, under 73, that 73-inch minimum size is for commercial sale only. It's got to be greater than that. It's the largest size limit in the world for commercial sale. Now, the U.S. gets an international share of the quota. Each country that gets a share of the quota has a right to divvy it up as they see fit amongst user groups. I think we have a good balance in this country. Yes, we have a good, healthy portion for the commercial bluefin fishery, but there's also quota set aside for those smaller fish, which are generally the ones that small boat guys will have an opportunity to go target. Those 50 to 100, 150-pound fish. We have, we call them the mosquito fleet. They're the little fast boats. And the guys go with spinning rods and chase these fish with poppers or jigs, right? And it looks like a lot of fun. And some of these guys are pretty good at doing it. But those short fish, so assuming there's quota available, if we catch a short while you're on a charter, I have the proper permits. So under the recreational rule, we can keep that fish and I can cut it up and send you guys home with it.
No, we can just eat it on the boat like sashimi.
Well, no, because by the book, we can't cut the fish on the boat. We have to bring it back to the dock. Again, it all becomes, well, how do they enforce that, Captain Dave? Well, that's why a fish has to be brought to the dock whole and intact. Right? And that way, if law enforcement is around, oh, geez, Dave, you got a short fish today. Why is that? Well, I have to be able to point and go, these guys right here hired my boat. And then he's going to look and make sure my captain's license is valid. And he's also going to look and make sure my permit is valid.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if everything's on the up and up, he'll say, okay, go ahead, continue about your business and cut that fish up. Now, if I don't have a charter, he's going to assume I'm trying to sell that, and I'm going to get a $10,000 fine.
Not worth it for a shorty.
They keep it real simple, and the
Yeah,
fine escalates. So, people say, make wild assumptions that, oh, you can do this, or you can do that. It's not like that. Managers take this very seriously. And the fines, although and again, it's at the office's discretion with like anything. But if you're a guy who's been fishing for 30 years and you've had 0 violations, well, you'll probably get assessed differently than if you're the guy who in the past 5 years have had 30 violations, right?
Yeah.
But again, They can take that to an extreme. They can, if they sanction your operator's permit, they can make it so you can't even set foot aboard a federally permitted vessel as a captain, as an owner, or as a crewman. So it's just like a liquor license, right? You know what I mean? If these restaurants have a liquor license, most of them play by the rules when it comes to the drinking age, because for a couple of drinks one night, it's not worth risking the permit that they run their whole entire business on, right? You know what I mean? So they have those same kind of incentives built into enforcement in the fishing industry.
I hear you. All right, Dave, I know it's getting late, and I just got one last question for you.
Sure.
Obviously, you have the best, you fish in the ocean, which is the best place to fish. If there was any other type of fishing you can do, if it's your day off, you say, I want to go fishing, is there anything you'd rather do or go catch?
Oh, yeah. Well, anything. That's been one of the fringe benefits of the show. My wife likes to fish as well, right? And so, like this year, we fished Costa Rica for the first time in my life, right?
Sweet,
It was, like, I thought that was pretty cool. Like, in this little town in Nosara, they didn't even have a ramp or a launch, right? You waded out into the surf to get in a little skiff. Yeah. And the skiff brought you out to the bigger boat that took you out, marlin fishing. Yeah. Now, there was red tide, and we wanted to catch rooster fish, but the red tide kind of messed up the whole rooster fishing thing, right? But for me, going to do that was something I've never done before. Something I never thought I'd have the opportunity to do. But because things have gotten better, I'm able to do things like that, right? And actually, it was a good deal. The guy who owned the little lodging facility, he owns like 4 or 5 houses, and they book people for a week at a time to take them fishing, and they put you in the house. He just happened to be beside me in one of the booths at one of the fishing shows this winter, where I was hawking T-shirts, right? And one of the extra things we can do because of the show. But so he invited me down, and we worked out a trade a trip deal. He all I had to do was get the plane tickets, and they put us up in Costa Rica for 7 days, and we went out fishing 5 days, and then we did some other stuff. And then, I'm going to take him for 2 days in the fall up here. So,
Sweet.
We got an opportunity to fish in Rome, myself and my wife, for a bluefin tuna tournament that they have over there. Wow. They flew us over just so I could be there, and they could say I'm part of the event. And, I never thought I'd be traveling to other countries in the world in my old life. I'll admit it. I never thought I was going anywhere, but those have been some of the many. This June, coming up in June, we have a fundraiser we do on the West Coast for the Friends of Rollo. It's a great organization. I do it, and Paul Hebert from the Wicked Piston does it. And all the money we raise goes to take inner city kids out fishing and stuff, out there in the big cities out in the West Coast. So a great cause to be a part of. And the trade-off is we get to go out and go fishing, and my wife gets to come and we do the West Coast style fishing out there
That's
for a
awesome.
week, you know. So
Really
those
cool.
are some of the fringe benefits because of the notoriety. All these doors open up
Right.
Yeah.
that you never thought you'd actually be able to walk
Well,
through.
true. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so again, the short answer to your question is, well, where would I like to go next? It's, I don't know, wherever the opportunity allows, right? Because
Yeah.
there's so much I haven't done. And, you know, ultimately I got into fishing when I was a kid because of all the exciting things that happen when you're fishing with your rod and your reel, right?
Right.
And
Right.
then, you know, for 30 plus years of my life, it became making a living commercial fishing with
Yeah.
nets, with long lines, you know, and all the, you know, 10-day trips, 12-day trips, you know, standing there for years on end, hauling nets, you know, around the clock. Sometimes my shifts when we're gill netting, you know, it's 48 to 72 hours on your feet nonstop till the
Yeah.
boat's full. That's it's not a complaint. That's what we did, right?
Right.
So
Right.
to have an opportunity, it's almost like because me and the wife get so excited when we get to do this stuff, right? It's like, you know, picking up where I left off when I was a little kid.
That's
Because we
awesome.
literally get giddy. You know, the first time, 3 years ago, we caught our first striped marlin in Cabo, right? Now, I've done a lot of fishing and seen a lot of things, right? But
Mhm.
that first time we steamed up to a bait ball, right? And there was 8 or 10 marlin pushing that, there was striped marlin, and they were pushing that school of mackerel, and we had all our live mackerels on the hooks, right?
Mhm.
Like, I'll admit that was pretty cool. I was
Yeah.
pretty giddy because I had never, and seeing those marlin all lit up like that, it was like, all
Yeah.
right, I'll admit my knees started knocking a little. And
Oh
I
yeah.
was I was fumbling to get a good presentation on that bait, right? Like
Yeah.
that was pretty cool stuff. So,
Awesome, dude.
Absolutely.
that's been an opportunity. And like, again, what was cool about that day, the wife and I both, we both caught our first marlin on the very first cast of the morning. We
Wow.
doubled up. So it was like,
Yeah.
how cool is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
You know
pretty
what
cool.
I
I
mean?
mean,
Like,
especially when it's a
because I never
fishery.
thought I'd have an opportunity to do anything like that. As a
No.
Yeah.
commercial fisherman, I just would have never had the money to do that. But again, we got invited to that event, and we donated a trip down there to charity, to raise money for a charity, out of Cabo there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Nice.
you know what I mean? We get these opportunities that all blossom from our participation.
Absolutely, man. And it's great to hear stuff like that. But Dave, we are just about running out of time, man. I just
Okay.
one more time, if you could plug your website, and I'll leave a description down
Sure.
in the link below.
Sure. Yeah. It's angelicafisheries.com. And you can
All right,
find out
guys.
about fishing with us. You can find about hats, tees, or bobbleheads. angelicafisheries.com.
Get them while you can,
Absolutely,
guys.
guys. Absolutely, guys. And if you want to check out Dave Marciano and all the stars of Wicked Tuna, you can check them out 9/8 Central every Sunday on National Geographic. Thank you, Cap, for your time. We greatly appreciate it. It was a pleasure having you on.
All right. You're
Thanks,
welcome,
Dave.
guys. Have a great night.
Oh man,
Pleasure,
that was a
buddy.
great time with Dave, man. We heard a lot that over the past 10 years watching him on TV that you don't know of. And it was great to find out some more about Dave, and he's just an overall great guy, hardworking fisherman and great dude.
And Family Guy, man, which we press on here every episode, dude. Every guy we try to get in contact with or interview on the podcast is usually doing something to benefit the fishery as a whole. And Dave is definitely doing that. His crew, I mean, the company that he has, his wife, kids, everybody's involved some way somehow to just bettering the fishery. And Chris, to be honest, I hope I did it justice, and I hope not only me but you ask the questions that all the fishermen wanted to ask someone like Dave, because there's a
Yeah.
long time I've been dying, dude, to know, like, if I catch a fish with you on a boat, or if we splitting this thing, going to market, like, I don't even want
Yeah.
it, dude. I want to beeline it back and just sell this thing for 2 grand, like, So I hope I hit all them questions everybody wanted to ask, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. I mean, I know we did.
Well, I enjoyed it, man. I had a good time. And anytime you get down with somebody like Dave, not only because he's a celebrity, but he's a fisherman just like us. Obviously he's got a lot more experience than what we do. He's been in the game for a long time. And I mean the whole family is great. I mean, Nancy, Joe, Angelica, they all get down and they do their thing on that boat and they all catch fish. And big shout out to Dave Marciano and the entire Angelica's fishery. And they do a great job.
Yeah, man, for sure, dude. And I'm looking forward to Chris. Like, I know we talked to all these captains about setting up trips, but that'll be one I think we got to plan. We got to do something. And I don't know if we can do it even in the off season and get Dave on the boat, but that would just be prime.
Yeah, that would be freaking awesome to head up out there to Gloucester and do our thing and catch. It doesn't necessarily for me, tuna is it's another fish, but I rather just have a bent rod. If you've never caught a tuna before, I get it because I was the same exact way, but I mean, I rather have constant action, but still, I understand what it's like, wanting to catch something that size and just feeling that power and that fight. And it's probably one of the most amazing things that'll ever happen to you as a fisherman. But I mean, hey guys, we're running out of time this week, so we got to cut it off. And I hope you guys enjoyed our time with Captain Dave Marciano. Check his website down in the description below. And if you like what you saw, please give a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on all the podcast platforms, leave a review. Let us know. Is there somebody else that you want to see come on this show and talk to us? Let me know. This helps other fishermen find us to spread the word. Well, for this week, I'm Chris, he's Aaron, and we're out. Tight lines.
See you guys.